Hi, this is Justin Elliott with TPMtv. I'm here with Professor Burt Neuborne of NYU Law School. He told us during the panel that he has the distinction of having sued every president since LBJ. You made an interesting point during the panel that there are kind of two legal obstacles as to why more victims of torture are not pursuing civil suits against the wrongdoers in the Bush administration. Can you elaborate on those 2 points?
Well, sure. The easiest one to fix is that there's a hole in the statutes. In 1871, the Congress decided that anybody could sue a state or local official for violating the Constitution, and they could get damages. And the reason that was done was to protect the newly freed slaves and to enforce the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments against the southern state and local governments. It's 137 years since we passed that, and we still don't have a similar statute for federal officials. So when a federal official violates the Constitution and you say, you just broke the law, you owe me money for damages, he says, where's the statute that says that I'm supposed to pay you? Now, every once in a while, you get the Supreme Court to do something heroic and say, even in the absence of a statute, we're going to make you pay damages. But most of the time, we lose. And every single one of the damage actions we have pending now against the Bush administration for violating the Constitution is tied up in court because we don't have a statute like that. Congress could pass that statute tomorrow. In fact, all they have to do is take the word state out of the existing statute, so anybody who violates law would be subject to damages. And as I asked Congressman Nadler to introduce that statute, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be passed in January, because it should be non-controversial. If somebody violates the Constitution, they should have to pay damages.
And there's also the state secrets issue. I mean, how big an obstacle is that?
Well, the state secrets privilege is something that came into the law in about 1950. And what it does is it allows the United States to say, gee, we can't litigate this case because the facts that we would need to defend would be facts that would hurt national security and hurt foreign policy. So we're very sorry. We have to invoke the privilege and the case has to go away. Well, this is a tremendous power which can be abused because it allows the government to drop a curtain on any case that it wants to. It's been rarely used, almost never used in the years since it was created. The Bush administration has blown it up again, and we're seeing it in case after case after case. Now, Congress could change it tomorrow. If Congress wanted to limit the state secrets privilege, they could change it tomorrow. The incoming Obama Justice Department could stop making these arguments, and they could change it tomorrow. Or the courts could simply say, stop it. You can't use the state secrets privilege to cover up illegality. So all three are ways to deal with it.
And you also said that you expect Bush to issue pardons in some form. What form do you expect that to take, and what will that mean going forward?
Well, first, I have no special knowledge here. I mean, it's never stopped me from guessing before, and that's what I'm doing is guessing. But my assumption is that Bush is not going to leave office with a whole group of people who are liable to turn him in later. And so he's going to try to shut everybody up by pardoning them so that they aren't going to be called before grand juries and the prosecution isn't going to push them into making significant charges against them. So he's going to pardon large numbers of people. He'll pardon them in advance. It'll be a generic pardon for violating certain laws. And my sense is the only question is how high up is he going to go? Is he going to pardon his vice president? With that, we don't know.
You also, last question, you raised the idea of what you called a shaming commission. Can you sort of talk about what you mean by that and what form that might take?
Sure. One of the important things is to find out what people did and to make sure that it has consequences. If someone was engaged in torture or made torture possible or engaged in illegal activities, it may be impossible to prosecute them because the president's going to pardon them. It may even be impossible to establish a kind of legal liability and damages because they may not have been the person that actually beat up this particular plaintiff. But it ought to be possible to establish their moral responsibility for what they did, and it ought to be possible to broadcast that to the world so that they will go through the rest of their lives branded as what they are, people who violated the basic precepts of law and who should be held accountable. So a shaming commission is a commission that holds hearings and that issues reports designed to say, these were the guys that did the torturing, these were the guys that approved the torturing, don't ever forget it, don't let them ever forget it, and at least we'll have a record of what happened.
Burt Neuborne, thank you very much for your time. This is Justin Elliott for TPM Media.